Hey, whole Bible readers, welcome to week 18. As we go into this week, we are officially over a third of the way through our program of reading the whole Bible, and we will complete at the end of this week the longest of what we call the latter prophets in the Hebrew Bible, or the major prophets in the English Bible, the book of Isaiah. So we're going to read Isaiah chapter 45 to 66 this week. And as we do, here's some things to watch for. First of all, watch for the promise of return from exile. Now, right away, we're going to see Cyrus named as the one who does this. And this is kind of a reminder that it was very ironic that a pagan king should be the one who would liberate the people of Judah from their captivity. But this is what happens. But of course, throughout the book of Isaiah, God uses the pagans to do his purpose, and then he brings judgment on the pagans as well, because just because you've done something that Yahweh needed done doesn't mean that you are Yahweh's person. You've got to be devoted to him. You've got to have faith in him. So that promise of return from exile means that those who are anticipating exile or who will later find themselves in exile have a reason for hope. We're going to be reminded Babylon, which had once been God's instrument, is going to be destroyed, just as we said. With eventually Cyrus will be destroyed as well. Human pride and achievement always comes to destruction, as God alone is supreme. Israel will be described in this section as God's servant, but then this raises the question. Israel is sinful. This is going to be right there. So how can Israel be God's servant if Israel is sinful? Specifically, to be a servant as a light to the nations. Well, the answer is going to come to us in chapters 22 and 23. There is one in Israel who will be rejected by his own people and die as a sacrifice for Israel's sin. He himself will be without sin, so he will give his life for the sake of others, and God will vindicate him by giving him his life back again and putting him in the place of supremacy. And this is how God is going to fulfill the promise that Israel will bless the nations. Yeah, through the one Israelite, through Jesus, as we'll know centuries later. So God's mercy and justice are going to prevail, Isaiah says, even in what will feel like disappointment. So beware in all of this. Don't let your disappointment lead you to idolatry. Don't become cynical and hypocritical, because God sees and knows everything. And God's judgment on idolatry and on hypocrisy are terrible, as they ought to be. And so be aware of those things. All of this has global implications. All of the earth is included in God's judgment, but also in God's mercy. And so those who have been previously excluded from God's covenant are now going to be invited in. And ultimately, this means that God recreates everything, a new heaven and a new earth, God triumphantly giving life where death has reigned. It's on that kind of note that Isaiah is going to come to a close. You notice how there's a lot of gospel in the book of Isaiah. This is something the church fathers observed. They thought of Isaiah as the fifth evangelist sometimes. So much of the New Testament is quoting the book of Isaiah. It's the second most widely quoted book of the Old Testament in the New. The most quoted being the Psalms, obviously, because it's also the biggest. And speaking of the Psalms, we're going to finish Psalm 119, that long psalm, because it's actually 22 separate odes to exalt God's Torah, his instruction, his word, each one of them beginning with the next, each line in each one of them beginning with a single letter of the Hebrew alphabet and going through the alphabet consecutively as we go from stanza to stanza. Then we'll have a couple more psalms at the end of the week. I think you'll find that Psalm 121, where we end the week, serves as kind of a fitting capstone to the book of Isaiah. See how that kind of summarizes the message of Isaiah for you. So I just want to urge you, as you're reading this week and as we continue in the prophets, really try to enjoy the poetry. Analyze, yes, but enjoy. Kind of hear the music and appreciate the feeling that's there, because that's what poetry is supposed to do. God is addressing our whole person in these books. It helps to know the circumstances, and we're introducing those along the way, and you've read so much of the history already, but it's utterly necessary to identify with the experience of the people who first read this. So use your superpower of empathy and imagination as you read. What's it like to be a faithful person in Israel or an unfaithful person in Israel who's hearing this message? What's it like to be a person who is suffering or in exile or in disappointment, maybe even after the exile, who's reading these books again and again and wondering, how is God going to do what he has said he's going to do? That's how they'll come into focus for us. Understanding what it meant to them is what enables us to understand what it means for us. Okay? Enjoy your reading and let us know how it's going. God bless you.